You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB. Football Fever with News Talk ZB's voice of football, Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen.
Yes, it is. Welcome into Football Fever, a day later than usual to take in last night's Wellington Phoenix men's game, a Monday night clash against Macarthur FC. I'm Jason Pine. Bonnie Jansen is here as well. How are you, Bonnie?
I'm good, thanks, Piney, and what a win last night. Oh my goodness, I'm still fizzing from it. Just amazing. I
feel like we've got some very good news and some very bad news. Well, not bad news, but we've got a very good performance to unpick from the men and a not quite so impressive performance to unpack from the women, which we can get to in a moment. Because let's start with the men last night. Against a previously unbeaten Macarthur FC, the Phoenix off the back of a 3-0 defeat last time out against Newcastle at home. Talk about a bounce-back performance. It was just a terrific night's viewing, wasn't it?
Oh, it was just amazing. And I think Chiefy's been listening to our podcast, Piney, because he did all the changes we discussed and they bounced back exactly like we wanted them to. It was just awesome because, I think it was so promising, the start they had, and that loss they had a fortnight ago. It was a bit gutting to see, but just the fact that they can bounce back from that, so impressive, and it's so exciting. Looking forward to the rest of the season. Yeah, well, let's talk about those changes. One was enforced. Oscar Zavada didn't make the trip, obviously, because of a thigh contusion or something like that. Hopefully that's not too serious, although to be fair, they didn't seem to miss him up top last night, getting 3 goals. The other 2 were tactical or selection changes made by Chiefy. Ben Old in for his 50th game, and Sam Sutton taking the place of Mohamed El Tay and Lucas Kelly-Heald. Look, I was just so impressed with Ben Old. I thought he just added just something extra to that midfield. It's been Rufa, El Tay and Pennington for most of the season, and good solid players, but just not a lot of creativity there. I don't know what you thought, Bonnie. I just thought Ben Old added something really, really special and different in that attacking sense. Yeah, no, I completely agree, Piney, and I texted you last night because I again was just so impressed with Ben Old, and I agree, he create something different in there. I feel like those 3 midfielders that have been in there all season kind of are all very similar players and great players, might I add. But Ben Old's just got this little spark, and it's really exciting, I think, obviously for the Phoenix, but also the national scene, and I hope he gets kind of more opportunities with the All Whites as well, because he's just growing so much as a player.
His contribution to that first goal, the way he got it in his own half, just beat a player with a drop of the shoulder, played it into Costa, continued his run down the left, got it back from Costa Barbarouses, and then crossed it in for Crieff. Just everything about it was so eye-catching. I hope he gets a run of games in this side now, because I really think Ben Old's got a high ceiling. I think we may get another season or a season and a half out of him before he heads offshore. But that was an inspired selection from Chiefy last night. Let's talk about the defence. Excellent again. 4th clean sheet in 8 games. Alex Paulson, another penalty save. Bonnie, I don't know why teams just, if they get a penalty against the Phoenix, just say, no, we won't bother, because Paulson will just save it.
Yeah, honestly, it's just amazing. I don't even really know what to say. It's at the start of the season we were worried, I guess. We lost Ollie Sale and he had been so good for the Phoenix, but no worries, Alex Paulson is that much better, I feel, in my opinion, and good on him. He is another player that's still super young and like you say, has a high ceiling. So I think we're very, as Phoenix fans and New Zealand, we're very, very lucky to have a player like Alex Paulson.
He's saved penalties now from Adam Taggart, from Jamie McLaren and Ulysses Davila, 3 pretty handy players who he has kept out from the penalty spot. A couple of other stats from last night. The opening goal was the Wellington Phoenix's 600th goal in A-League men's football. Bojdar Kriev with the honour of chalking up that milestone, and 2 goals for Costa Barbarouses. And just a word on Costa, I think last season perhaps wasn't one that he'd look back on with great satisfaction. He played well at times, but there was a bit of an inconsistency about Costa Barbarouses last season. But he's been one of the Phoenix's best players this season. 2 goals last night. The only thing really missing from his season this season has been goals, and he got a couple in the space of 3 minutes. I just love the renaissance of Costa Barbarouses and what he's adding to this team.
Yeah, he's a pillar up there, and, you know, yes, he hasn't been scoring this season. I think the commentators said last night it had been 17 games. That might be a few too many, but
no, that's right.
Yeah, just amazing. And I feel like after that goal, and then he got another one straight after, it's like, okay, if the floodgates open now, is he back? And, you know, whether he's scoring or not, he's such a prominent player in that team as a leader, and, you know, he's got so much experience. So yeah, good to see him kind of get what he's kind of deserves, I guess. No,
absolutely. His first goal last night saw him become just the second player to score double-figure goals for 4 different A-League clubs. He's now got double-figure goals for the Phoenix, Brisbane, Roar, Melbourne Victory and Sydney FC. The only other player to do that, Shane Smeltz, who got double figures for the Phoenix, Gold Coast, Perth and Sydney FC. Oscar Zavada, I'm sure, comes back into the equation, although, as I say, that's twice now the Phoenix have been without Oscar Zavada, and they've beaten Melbourne City and MacArthur without him. So I'm not saying no Zavada, no problem, but they've found a way. I guess it's David Ball who drops out, but I mean, his industry and the way he plays, it's quite a nice little selection headache to have, isn't it, for Chiefy to say, okay, well, Oscar Zavada's coming back in, who do I drop?
Yeah, it's a great problem, and, you know, probably we will see Bawley go back to the bench, but it's really positive to have these players coming off, and like Sam Sutton starting last night, and Ben Old, we had some really strong players then coming off the bench, and it's a great problem to have. So I wouldn't, you know, if I was David Ball, I wouldn't worry too much, because, you know, he's still going to have a lot of minutes this season, whether he's coming off the bench or in the starting 11. One
final stat before we move on. That was the 18th game the Phoenix have played on a Monday, the first time they've ever won on a Monday. 3 draws and 14 defeats on previous Monday matches. So they finally chalked up a win on a Monday.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. That's another stat that came to light last night. Next up for the Phoenix men, they welcome third-placed Western Sydney Wanderers to Sky Stadium on Saturday, second half of a doubleheader at Sky Stadium on Saturday. The return of Marco Rudan, of course. The reception he gets will be interesting in Wellington, but the Phoenix have to go into it. I mean, they're top of the table. Western Sydney have been good. They're third, as I say. That's a cracking pre-Christmas clash, isn't it, for the Wellington Phoenix men?
Yeah, it's, you know, it'd be great to be at the top of the table for Christmas, and yeah, we're hopefully, after last night, we're back on the horse and keep the ball rolling. It's things are looking really promising heading into the new year.
Yep, absolutely. So that's the men covered off. Just one final word on Giancarlo Italiano, who I think we've mentioned a couple of times on the podcast. Bonnie has you know, he came in and people weren't really sure. Had never been a head coach in an A-League side before, had played second fiddle to Ufuk Tallo over the last 3 or 4 years. Everybody wondered how he would go, particularly given the fact that, you know, he hadn't really signed anybody of note. A couple of academy graduates had come through. It just feels to me as though every single player in the squad has just completely bought in to what Giancarlo Italiano was all about. The way they pass out from the back with confidence and with courage, and the way they beat the MacArthur press last night, I just love the way they have all completely bought into what Chief's all about.
Yeah, it's great, and we've mentioned it before, but a lot of people doubted how this team, including myself, I must admit, doubted how this team would go this season, and including Chiefy, the coach, and yeah, exceeded expectations, and it's really good. And I think, you know, that defeat they had last week, and we're all a bit worried, but it's clearly the best thing that happened to them, and it shows that they can bounce back and they can turn around and have an exceptional win like they did last night. Really good to see the team kind of clicking now.
The FFP with Piney and Bonnie.
Let's go to the women. I thought this was just going to be a lay-down misère for them. I thought they'd go to Adelaide, who had previously not won a game all season, 2 draws and 5 defeats, off the back of a rip-roaring start to the season for the Wellington Phoenix women. The football ferns had all had a week to rest and refresh after the game against Melbourne Victory when they played various bit-part roles. This was a really disappointing performance by the Wellington Phoenix women, particularly in the second half. They went 1-0 up through Emma Main, should have got another couple or 3 goals in the first half, and then just left the door open for Adelaide, who equalised and then scored the winner through a goalkeeping error from Riley Foster. It's been a good season for the Wellington Phoenix women. This was the low point, though. I think this is an extremely disappointing performance.
Yeah, it certainly was, and maybe the cracks are starting to show. They held it together last week against Melbourne Victory in that draw, and after, losing kind of 3 players in 3 weeks and coming off the Ferns tour, but they held it together then, but maybe this week it was just all kind of built up. But I'm not too worried. I don't know about you, Piney, but I feel like we were saying these same things last weekend for the men. So it's it's one kind of not so great performance. Hopefully they can turn it around. Yeah,
great point you make. It's almost a direct correlation. You're right, because the Wellington Phoenix men went into last weekend's game against Newcastle, heavily backed to win that game against a team that only won 1 game in their first 6. And exactly the same thing with the women going to Adelaide, a team they should have comfortably accounted for, and had the chances to put them away before half time. Reality checks are okay in football, on occasion. I don't think this is the sign of anything deeper to worry about within the squad. Yes, they've got some players who are injured and have departed the club, but I still think they've got a pretty solid roster. And I think what it does do is makes this weekend's game against Newcastle, who are 6th, at Sky Stadium, a really important match. I'm not saying it's a make or break or a must win, but like the men did, do you expect the women to show some bounce back ability and get back to winning ways, or certainly play like they have been in the first 6 weeks of the season?
Oh, they're going to need to. There's no option otherwise. I think watching that performance over the weekend, I think a few players are starting to get a little bit too comfortable. We're missing shots right in front of goal that 1v1 with the keeper that we probably should be finishing, and that was what was so great about the team earlier this season, as they were finishing their chances, and just sloppy errors at the back, and maybe it's a question now this week they regroup, and thankfully for the team and thankfully for Coach Paul Temple, he's got options off the bench, and maybe this is a chance, like Chiefy did this week, last night, to have a play around and start making these spots a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, interesting post on social media from Paul Temple after the game. I'm going to read it here. Tough to take. Some of our football and chance creation was excellent. We created enough to be out of sight, but left the door open. Lessons will be learned collectively. The second half performance is my responsibility, says Paul Temple. The players are giving everything. Trust the process. We will grow and be better. That's interesting. He takes responsibility for the second half. I can only imagine he means the substitutions that he made at various stages. He made some subs at 1-0 up, brought a couple of players off, and changed things up, and then all of a sudden the Phoenix are 2-1 down and can't find their way back into the match. I honestly think, though, it was the first half that was their downfall, in that, when they went 1-0 up, just getting that foot on the throat and going 2-0, 3-0. At 2 or 3-0 up, Adelaide are not coming back into that game.
No, exactly. And there's, I hate to single out a player, but Mariana Speckmeyer has missed 2 clear opportunities now in the last 2 games, and kind of crucial goals. And I think that's something we're going to need to see, is these players finishing their chances. Mania Elliott had another one right in front of goal as well. And that we need things to keep clicking, and I don't think it's fair for Paul to take full responsibility. Yes, substitutions can change games for good and bad, and it's all about the timing of it, but I see it more as players just were a little bit too comfortable in positions, and that's where errors happen. Yeah,
the Mania Elliott one was a golden opportunity. I mean, she's in the 6-yard area. She should really bury that. But, coulda, shoulda, woulda. Football's a funny game sometimes, and Adelaide United did enough to get the points. So Wellington Phoenix, they still stay in 4th place. It's absolutely not terminal by any stretch of the imagination. Newcastle are the visitors on Saturday in the first of the double-header game. So it's set to be a terrific afternoon's football at Sky Stadium with the Phoenix women playing Newcastle at 2:45. Then the men against Western Sydney Wanderers at 5:30. Give us a prediction, Bonnie. Do the women bounce back like the men did?
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting 2 wins on the weekend. You'll be there, won't you, Piney? You'll be there cheering them on, and I reckon we're going to be in the best position heading into Christmas for sure.
All right. Well, okay. Well, it's a bold prediction, but I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all.
Football Fever, powered by News Talk ZB.
Just a quick look at Kiwis overseas. Daisy Cleverly. She hasn't had a heck of a lot of minutes for her club, HB Kogi, in recent times, but she scored the winner over the weekend for them. Have you seen a replay of this, or have you seen footage of this goal? It looks like they're playing inside.
Oh,
yeah. It's
I didn't even pick that up.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to.
I think it's so cold. I think it's so cold over there that they play games inside. It's like a massive big hall.
No way.
Yeah, it is. It's the first thing I noticed when I watched the goal was that they're playing inside. But
wow.
I remember watching, it was a game involving Logan Rogerson and Ollie White at their team in Haka, and same part of Europe. And yeah, they play games inside because it's the grounds are frozen outside. It's just too cold to play outside. The grounds can't hold up.
Wow, interesting. But that goal was unreal, wasn't it?
Yeah, nice goal from Daisy Cleverly. I'm interested in what her football Ferns future is. She's been in and around the team for a while. She was in the World Cup squad. She's certainly not a first choice for the football Ferns, but she's got time on her side. She's younger than the likes of Betsy Hassett and Ria Percival and Annalie Longo and others who play in New Zealand's midfield. Do you think she's got it in her to stake a claim as a regular New Zealand starter, Daisy Cleverly?
Well, you're the stat king, Piney, but here's one for you. Daisy's been to 3 World Cups now and not played 1 minute. So it's kind of tricky because she has been that one coming off the bench or just a kind of, a solid replacement for those veterans. But, I would like to see Daisy in and around the squad for, the next cycle at least to the World Cup, because she is a really good player, but I guess the people in her position have just been super solid for the Ferns, and hopefully now with Yitka starting to give more players opportunities, we'll see Daisy get more minutes and as those players move on. But yeah, I think so. We'll I guess heading into the Olympics where the squad is so much smaller than the World Cup, it goes down to 18. I think that'll be real telling to see where Yitka has her and has Daisy in her plans.
Yeah, I feel like she might be sort of in that kind of, she's either the 18th or she's the 19th, if you know what I mean. She either just gets in or just misses out of a smaller squad. But yeah, I think there's a lot more years ahead of Daisy Cleverly. Great to see Claudia Bunge also playing 90 minutes in that game. Anna Leet, was really pleased to see her get a first Super League appearance for Aston Villa this season. She's played the cup games, but has had to bide her time in the Super League, but played her first Super League game and kept a clean sheet. So I kind of feel like Anna Leet's pushing Vic Essen now for that Football Ferns #1 spot. Vic Essen isn't getting a lot of games at Rangers in Scotland. Anna Leet started both of the matches recently in the most recent window. Do you think Anna Leet might be edging ahead of Vic Essen in the Ferns keeping pecking order?
Yeah, I hope so. Anna Leet's another one who's still so young, but then has heaps of experience in and around the Ferns camp. So I think it's time that she, if not the #1 shirt, she gets far more games than she has been, because I think she's so good, and she's gonna be key for New Zealand in I reckon the next decade.
Couple of men catching the eye. Andre de Jong, who seems to have fallen out of the All Whites equation, but helped his South African club Stellenbosch FC win the Carling Cup over there. That's, I guess, their equivalent of the FA Cup. It's the knockout cup competition. It went to penalties, and Andre de Jong scored his, as Stellenbosch won 5-4 on penalties. So nice to see him pick up some silverware with his South African team. And Libby Kakachi almost scored his first Serie A goal for Empoli. He headed the ball into the net a free kick against Torino, but unfortunately he was in an offside position, so the goal was chalked off. But Libby Cacace, Empoli are battling a bit in Serie A, but would have been nice to see Libby open his account. Unfortunately, that's going to have to wait for another day. All right, well, that's Football Fever for today. Presumably, we won't be back next Monday, seeing it's Christmas Day, Bonnie. I presume we'll be spending times with our respective families and loved ones on Christmas Day, but lots of football happening over this period, so I guess we'll reconvene shortly after Christmas to wrap what hopefully will be a successful double header in Wellington this coming weekend.
Yeah, I look forward to it, Piney, and to all our listeners, have a very good Christmas and a safe holidays.
This is Football Fever. For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.